Hello, we begin in Gaza, where Palestinian factions have launched their largest barrage of rockets on Thursday. One person has reportedly died in a strike in Rehovot. This comes as Israel continues to target senior members of the Islamic Jihad armed group. We have Willem Marks joining us from Ashkelon near the border with Gaza. And Willem, we are getting these reports that one Israeli civilian has been killed close to Tel Aviv. But I know you're joining us from Ashkelon, and that is where the rockets sometimes land and sirens are heard. Tell us what's happening right now.
Yeah, during the last 30 minutes or so, there was some intense barrages of rockets, mostly heading north from Gaza just behind us. We heard sirens in this immediate area. They've been heard in other nearby towns and communities. We had some shrapnel come down just a short distance away from here, seemingly from one of the intercepted rockets, where the Israeli defense mechanism known as the Iron Dome seems to have intercepted one of those rockets. Another much larger projectile came down very close to the main road, a few hundred yards away from here. And clearly, as we saw some of the rocket launchers go up, you could see that some of them were going on a far more steep ascent, indicating they were further range than some of the ones around here, which, you know, we're a few kilometers away from Gaza. It may well be that one of those longer range rockets, one of those projectiles, has reached much closer to Tel Aviv. Israeli media is reporting there have been several injuries and one death in the suburb south of Tel Aviv known as Rehovot. And clearly people here now taking shelter because of that intense barrage over the last half an hour, Doreen.
All right. Thank you. Willem Marks, thank you so much for that update from Ashkelon. Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes in Gaza have killed a fifth senior leader of the Islamic Jihad armed group. 4 people were injured in the attack that took the life of Ahmed Abu Daqqa. 28 Palestinians have been killed since the strikes began on Tuesday. Yumna Sayed reports from Gaza.
Hundreds of mourners attend the funeral of Islamic Jihad commander Ali Hassan Ghali and his brother Muhammad in Khan Yunis. They were killed in an Israeli airstrike in Gaza on Wednesday night. Ghali was a member of the armed group's military council and head of Al-Quds Brigade's rocket unit. He's one of several leaders killed in what Israel says is a targeted campaign against Islamic Jihad. But Palestinians say most of the victims have been women and children. This apartment block in Khan Yunis is one of several buildings hit on Wednesday night.
I saw a bright flash of light turning the dark night into day, and then I heard 2 explosions within a few seconds. It became dusty, hazy. We couldn't see anything in the house. Rocks and glass fell on us. I could hear the children yelling and screaming.
Several families with young children live here.
We were asleep. We heard shelling, a loud noise. My father told me to stay inside, and he went to see what happened. We saw debris and shrapnel and destroyed houses.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres says the killing of civilians in Gaza is unacceptable and has urged Israel to abide by international law. He has also condemned the indiscriminate firing of rockets into Israel. As more families mourn their dead, Egypt is leading negotiations to end the fighting, which is the worst it's been in months. Yumna Sayed, Al Jazeera, Gaza.
Well, our correspondent Mohammed Jamjoom is in West Jerusalem with more on where things stand with a possible ceasefire.
It's a complicated scenario as far as what's going on behind the scenes when it comes to the prospect of a ceasefire right now. There have been rocket launches, there have been from Gaza, there have been airstrikes on Gaza. It seems that at the moment we are in the midst of an escalation. But we also know that there have been intensive negotiations going on behind the scenes to try to get to a ceasefire. We know that the Egyptians are mediating. We know from statements that have been made by senior Israeli officials to local media outlets that these officials would like to see a ceasefire come into effect. At the moment, it looks like it's more complicated than it was a few hours ago. There are some sticking points to discuss, which is making this more complicated. Islamic Jihad, for one, is demanding that if there is to be a ceasefire, Israel must commit to not assassinate any more of their leaders. This is something that Israel says they are not going to do. We've seen 5 of their leaders over the course of the past 2 days assassinated by Israel, and they're saying they have the right to do that. That's one complicating factor. It's going to be crucial to see what happens in the hours ahead. Conventional wisdom behind the scenes is that everybody wants a ceasefire. Right now, that seems to be farther away than it was a few hours ago, but there is still intense dialogue going on.
Al Jazeera is set to premiere a documentary on dozens of children killed when Israel bombed Gaza 2 years ago. It includes personal accounts from families and home video footage. 11 Days in May is produced by award-winning filmmakers Mohammed Sawaf and Michael Winterbottom. Here's a preview.
Just after 6 o'clock, there was an attack in Beit Hanun. A hay cart was passing the house of the Al-Masri family. 4 of their children were killed.
مرقته على هذا حط على البسطة على الفاضي اللي يدي يطلع معي طلع من ورا طلعت معي وصار يلعب مع ولاد عمي يوسف هيك مع هذا يلعب بعدين لما هو مع جاية الصاروخ هذا
الله أكبر.
Well, you can watch the full documentary 11 Days in May on Thursday at 2000 hours GMT.